There is a kind of person who never chases, never begs, never defends, and yet everyone around them feels the weight of their presence without being able to explain why. You have encountered people who react to insults with silence, who walk away from arguments they could easily win, who never explain themselves, even when accused, unfairly. And something about that stillness unsettled you more than any outburst ever could. That is not detachment, that is power. And today we are going to unpack why Niccolo Machiavelli, the man history misread as a villain, but who was, in truth, one of the most precise observers of human psychology who ever lived, understood this centuries before modern science had the language to describe it. Think about the last time someone dismissed your idea in a meeting, and you felt that familiar heat rise in your chest, the urge to defend, to explain, to prove yourself. Or perhaps you sent a message to someone, something vulnerable and honest, and they left you unread for hours, and you watched yourself compose and delete 3 follow-up messages, each one making you smaller. Maybe it was something simpler. Someone criticized you in front of others, and the words you said in response came out louder and shakier than you intended. And later alone, you replayed the moment and wished you had said nothing at all. These are not failures of intelligence. They are failures of composure. And composure, as Machiavelli understood, is not the absence of emotion. It is the mastery of its expression. Something happens inside a person when they feel cornered. There is a deep, almost animal need to be understood, to be seen as right, to not let a wrong perception of you stand unchallenged in the world. Psychologists call this the need for cognitive closure, the discomfort we feel when situations remain ambiguous or unresolved. When someone accuses us, the mind screams for resolution. When someone ignores us, the body floods with cortisol. When someone dismisses us, something that feels remarkably like grief moves through the chest. You know this feeling not because you are weak, but because you are human. And here is what no one tells you. The person who can sit inside that discomfort and not move, who can let the accusation hang in the air without rushing to answer it, that person has just demonstrated the rarest form of social intelligence that exists. The psychological concept at the center of this entire video is what researchers call emotional regulation, not suppression, but regulation. There is a crucial difference. Suppression means pushing the feeling down, pretending it is not there, which studies by Dr. James Gross at Stanford University have shown actually increases physiological stress and impairs long-term social functioning. Regulation means acknowledging the emotion internally while choosing deliberately how, when, and whether to express it externally. Machiavelli's 7 laws are not about becoming cold or robotic. They are about becoming the author of your own responses in a world that is constantly trying to write that story for you. Every law he observed in the courts of Renaissance Italy maps, with eerie precision, onto what behavioral psychologists now understand about influence, perception, and the architecture of social power. If something in these opening words already feels familiar, if you recognize yourself in any of those moments, then this might be one of the most important conversations you sit with this week. Take a moment to subscribe so you never miss a video like this, and share it with someone who you feel carries this weight quietly. And before we go further, when was the last time someone's silence affected you more than their words ever did? Think about that. Drop your answer in the comments. You might be surprised how many others feel the same. The first law Machiavelli observed is the one that gave this video its title, Never React. He watched princes lose kingdoms not because their enemies were stronger, but because a single provocation made them predictable. When you react, you hand the keys of your internal state to whoever provoked you. You become readable. And a readable person, in any social environment, whether a royal court or a modern office, is a manageable person. Researchers at the University of Amsterdam found that individuals who display visible emotional reactivity in conflict situations are consistently rated as having lower social status by observers, regardless of the actual merit of their position. The science says what Machiavelli said: the one who remains still holds the frame, and the frame, in human interaction, is everything. When you stay unmoved in the face of a provocation, You are not passively enduring it. You are actively shaping the perception of everyone watching. The provocateur expected a crack in the wall. You gave them stone. The second law is never explain. This one cuts deeper than the first because it touches something most of us were raised to believe is a virtue, the desire to be understood. We were taught that clarity is honesty, that explaining ourselves is a form of respect, that withholding explanation is arrogance. Machiavelli disagreed. He observed that those who explain themselves in the wake of an accusation or a failure almost always weaken their position, not because the explanation is wrong, but because the very act of explaining signals that the other person's opinion has power over you. There is a subtle psychology at work here. When you explain, you implicitly confirm that a verdict has been issued and that you are now in the position of defendant. Silence, by contrast, offers no such confirmation. It leaves the situation undefined, and undefined situations make observers fill in the gaps, often in ways that favor the person who said nothing. Dr. Robert Cialdini's decades of research on social influence consistently show that perceived confidence, not explained confidence, is what shifts the opinions of others. The third law is the one most people misread. Ignore strategically. Not the cold shoulder of someone wounded, not the petty silence of someone sulking, but the deliberate architectural decision to remove your attention from what does not deserve it. Attention is a currency. Every time you engage with a provocation, a rumor, an insult, or a petty power play, you spend that currency. Machiavelli understood that what you respond to reveals what you value. And if you respond to everything, you reveal that you value your own dignity so little that you will spend your most precious resource, your focused presence, defending it. In every back alley, someone decides to pick a fight. Imagine a deep, slow river. Rocks thrown into it cause ripples. Yes, but the river does not change course for any single rock. It moves according to its own geography, its own momentum, its own direction. The person who has internalized these three laws is like that river. They register the impact. They do not alter their path. The fourth law follows naturally. Control the narrative by controlling your face. Machiavelli wrote about the power of appearances with almost clinical precision, not as an endorsement of deceit, but as a recognition that humans do not respond to reality. They respond to their perception of reality. Research by psychologist Paul Ekman, who spent decades mapping microexpressions, demonstrated that the face leaks emotional information constantly, and that most people are entirely unconscious of what their expressions communicate. The person who trains themselves to maintain a composed, unreadable expression in high-stakes moments is not being fake. They are refusing to let their internal weather become a public forecast. There is a pattern most emotionally reactive people share, and it unfolds the same way almost every time. First comes the trigger: an unexpected criticism, a dismissive tone, a deliberate slight. Then comes the visible reaction. The jaw tightens, the eyes narrow, the voice rises a half pitch. Then the response is given before it has been fully formed. And then, always, comes the aftermath, the private rehearsal of what should have been said, the quiet awareness that the reaction gave away more than the words ever did. The fifth law is one of the most counterintuitive things Machiavelli ever wrote. Let others talk. We live in a culture that rewards speaking. The person who speaks most fluently in a room is often perceived as the most intelligent, the most prepared, the most worthy of attention. But Machiavelli noticed something the loudest people in the room rarely do. The one who listens most intently controls the most information. Every sentence a person speaks is a revelation. Every unguarded opinion is a map. Every boast is a confession of insecurity. The person who has learned to sit quietly, to ask a single well-placed question and then let the silence do the rest, accumulates something far more valuable than applause. They accumulate understanding. And understanding, in the architecture of human relationships, is leverage. Not the cruel leverage of someone waiting to exploit, but the quiet leverage of someone who always knows more about the room than the room knows about them. The sixth law addresses time, and it is perhaps the most misunderstood of all. never move in urgency. Machiavelli observed that the rulers who made their worst decisions almost always made them under the pressure of an immediate emotion: fear, anger, wounded pride. The decisions that destroyed empires were rarely made after long deliberation. They were made in the hot center of a feeling. When you act urgently in response to an emotional provocation, you are not solving the problem. You are performing your reaction to it. And performance, as any actor will tell you, is not the same as action. Delaying your response even by a single breath, even by one night's sleep, creates a space between the stimulus and the reply. In that space, which Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, identified as the seat of human freedom, something remarkable happens. The emotion loses a degree of its heat. The mind sees options it could not see when it was flooded. The reply that emerges from that space is not colder, it is cleaner. It does not carry the fingerprints of the moment that provoked it. The seventh law is the one that ties all the others together, and it is the most quietly devastating truth Machiavelli ever observed. Your reputation is not what you say about yourself. It is the story others tell in your absence. Every time you react visibly, you give that story a chapter. Every time you explain yourself unnecessarily, you hand someone else the pen. Every time you chase approval, you confirm that you do not believe the approval already exists. The person who has internalized all 7 laws does not manage their reputation. They do not curate it, defend it, or polish it. They build the substance of it through consistent, composed, deliberate behavior, and then release the narrative entirely. Because they understand something that most people spend their entire lives trying to learn. You cannot control what people think of you, but you absolutely can control what you give them to think about. This is worth sitting with honestly, because the truth is that most of us have been reactive in ways we are not proud of. Most of us have over-explained to someone who had already made up their mind. Most of us have sent the message we should have held, made the call we should have delayed, risen to the bait we knew was bait. There is no shame in that. These patterns are deeply wired. The nervous system does not care about social strategy. It cares about perceived threat and immediate relief. When someone diminishes you, the brain interprets it as danger, and danger asks for a response right now, not later, not calmly, not strategically. The fact that you have reacted in ways that cost you is not a character flaw. It is evidence that you are fully physiologically alive. What changes when you begin to absorb these laws is not your feeling. It is your relationship with the interval between the feeling and the action taken in its name. Here is the reframe that changes everything. The moment you realize that your composure is not a wall you build against the world, but a home you build for yourself, something shifts. Machiavelli was not describing a way to become unreachable or emotionally unavailable. He was describing a way to stop outsourcing your inner state to external events you cannot control. Every law he wrote is, at its core, about the same thing: the return of authorship. When you do not react, you are the author. When you do not explain to someone who is not genuinely asking, you are the author. When you let a provocation pass without feeding it, you are not a coward. You are a person who has decided that not every invitation to chaos deserves an RSVP. This is not indifference. Indifference is the absence of feeling. What Machiavelli described, and what the most psychologically grounded people you have ever encountered embody, is something far more sophisticated: full feeling, full awareness, and the sovereign choice of what to do with both. There is a kind of freedom that becomes available to you once you begin to practice even one of these laws consistently. It is not the dramatic freedom of a grand gesture or a triumphant confrontation. It is quieter than that. It is the freedom of walking into a room and not needing anything from it. The freedom of reading a critical message and choosing when to reply, or whether to reply rather than typing before the notification has even faded. The freedom of sitting in a meeting where someone takes credit for your work and knowing with a calm that surprises even yourself that your awareness of the truth is more durable than their performance of it. That kind of freedom does not announce itself. It does not show off. And that, perhaps, is the most Machiavellian thing about it. The soft practice this invites is not a technique. It is a question you begin to ask yourself in the small, charged moments before you speak. Is this response serving me or serving the emotion I am currently experiencing? That pause, that single inhale before the word, is the gap Frankl wrote about. It is where these 7 laws live. You will not get it right every time. That is not the goal. The goal is simply to notice the moment when you are about to hand over your composure like loose change, and to ask yourself, once, if you truly want to spend it. Over time, the noticing becomes faster. The pause becomes more natural. The moments of unnecessary reactivity become fewer, not because you are suppressing something, but because you have genuinely begun to need external validation less. Not because you have hardened, but because you have filled. People often ask what the most powerful thing a person can do in a conflict is. They expect an answer about words, the perfect response, the cutting comeback, the exact phrase that wins the room. Machiavelli would say, the most powerful thing is nothing. Not the nothing of the wounded person who has run out of words, not the nothing of someone who is afraid. The nothing of a person who has assessed the situation, found it unworthy of their energy, and returned fully, deliberately to themselves. That is a silence that speaks in a frequency most people can feel but cannot name. It is a presence so grounded that attempts to destabilize it feel to those who try, like trying to shake a mountain with their hands. The world will always offer you reasons to react, reasons to explain, reasons to perform your pain, in the hope that someone in the audience will be moved enough to validate it. Machiavelli's 7 laws are not a guide to becoming powerful over others. They are a guide to becoming sovereign over yourself. And the person who no longer needs the world to affirm them, who no longer explains themselves to people who have no intention of understanding, that person does not need to chase anything at all. Everything that truly belongs to them finds its way to them, because they have finally become someone who is whole enough to receive it. The quietest person in the room is often the only one who truly knows what is happening in it, because they are the only one who stopped talking long enough to see.